Good morning, everyone. Uh, Myself Bhavna, and I welcome you all to Jupyter Frontends and Accessibility meeting. Today is July 16th, and thank you everyone for joining. And I'll be your host for today. Uh, Quickly moving to the meeting agenda. So first one is from Mike, archiving Jupyter Desktop. So Mike.
Sure. Um, so JupyterLab Desktop is the application which wraps JupyterLab and also allows to run Jupyter Notebook if you know how to do that uh, in an Electron environment. Now, the problem with Electron is that this is basically a browser, a Chromium-based browser, which needs regular updates as any browser because it is what interacts with the internet, but in JupyterLab desktop case, it also interacts with your file system and allows basically arbitrary execution of kernels, which can be any programs and anything that you have in the content environment. So this project just has a very broad security service area. One of the examples of that is in a notebook, we can embed an iframe, and that iframe it can be anything depending on the notebook. And if someone shares a notebook with you and there is an iframe which points to a location that someone else controls, like today maybe this domain is yours or your company's, but someone forget to renew that and the domain can be taken over. If the browser is not uh, updated to keep up with any exploits using the very broad API surface of JavaScript, CSS, and other elements, then of course it becomes not very secure for the users. And we have not released a new version of JupyterLab Desktop for about a year now. And especially the versions that were released prior to that, I think were mostly bumping the JupyterLab dependency itself. So the release 4.2.5.1 I think this only upgraded to JupyterLab 4.2.5 and did not update the Electron itself. And because of that, because there's no one actively working on this, and it usually requires a joint effort or at the very minimum testing across a couple of different operating systems, I'd propose that we add a note to the README saying that this project is not maintained and it 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 can have um, I'm not sure how to word it yet, but that it might not be secure to keep using it, uh, or especially accessing like external content using this JupyterLab desktop application. I hesitate because I don't want to archive this repository. If someone has time to address the issues and update to new versions, I would like it to still be a place where we can collaborate, and I would be happy to dedicate some of my own time to help with that. The reality is that I am happy to volunteer, spend some time in the evenings to contribute to the like Ubuntu Linux support, but I do not have a Mac. And even if I bought a Mac to test the Mac related issues, I would not be able to. I'm not a subject matter expert on Macs. I do not know how the file system works, etc. It's just that it requires a group of people to operate really, and this is why I'm like proposing. Okay, we tried to discuss if we can find funding. It doesn't seem straightforward. Maybe there will be someone who could contribute regularly or at least help with that, but this doesn't seem like an imminent resolution. So in the meantime, I'm proposing like, can we soft archive, soft deprecate this project just to signal to users that there is a real risk if they continue using it, and just wanted to see if there is any thoughts on that, any counter arguments, any other ways we could potentially handle that. Nick?
You know I got opinions. This was the original argument that I had against shipping an Electron thing. You're going from something that people treat as software to something that they treat as, oh, it's just going to keep working. So one thing that I had spooled out previously, still haven't actually investigated, but here we are. But we had previously seen at a Jupyter community call a while back, is Tari, which is a Rust-based installer mechanism. It's going to have all the same, signing problems, developer accounts, all the other stuff. It's the same old thing, but it uses native web views as your bastion for, like, I want to put pixels on the screen. Here's a native web view. Is a native web view sufficient for complex scientific computing? No. You need to have more control over it and stuff like that. So, one play would be pivot from Tari and a shipped Node.js runtime and all that. Yeah, I know it's not good. I know WebKit GTK is not good, but you don't need it for everything, right? You if it launched the thing that said, where do you want to launch things, and then gave you a place to say which browser you want to launch it with, and you configure that for your system browser or your preferred browser or your browser that has the appropriate accessibility tools that are not Electron or whatever it is, that would be, I think, sufficient. That would get you to, I've got a thing that's running. I can configure the thing and restart it without restarting my computer. Like these things go, resident, and then where do they go? That would not solve the multi-OS problem, but Tori has a better standards-based approach for doing that. It supports the WebDriver protocol with all its warts, and you can't make movies and all the other stuff, but it is standards-based. I don't have time to do that right now. I've been looking at it, at how one might go about doing that kind of thing. And really what I'd like to see is not, this is, JupyterLab desktop or whatever, whatever we call it. It's here are the building blocks with which an organization could build the stuff that they need. So there might not even be a downloadable executable from, JupyterLab desktop, Jupyter, whatever. But give organizations and communities the tools they need to build the stuff that they actually want. So Jupyter GIS, for example. I don't know if that's an official Jupyter sub-project. Maybe it is, maybe it's not, I don't know. But that seems like a perfect, isolation of all that. Yep, please, Jason.
Thanks. Yeah, that seems like a longer term project. Mike, I'm curious. So you're proposing in the issue two different things. One is lightweight soft archiving, you say, adding a note to the README, pending an issue. And then, of course, there's a hard archive, which is like archiving the repo and like doing something with the package releases to indicate that this is no longer supported. From the concerns you raised, it seems like you want to communicate to the end users. But the README and the pinned issue is not going to communicate to the vast majority of end users. Is your goal there to like not raise the friction to development in case somebody jumps in, but to signal to contributors that, hey, this is going to go away if we don't, if somebody doesn't step forward?
Well, so the first step was opening that issue, and we had this discussion, and there's a couple of perspectives here. One is that there were other attempts, and like Nick mentions, someone could try to attempt implementing similar thing using Tori, and having JupyterLab desktop, which is kind of their app, but it's not being maintained, in a sense, signals, like archiving it signals that there is a space for another application to be developed as a substitute. to serve this role. And there is the aspect of communicating to the user, and that is really difficult in part because we do not control some of the ways the application is distributed. For example, the Flatpak store, we do not have a control. Snapcraft or Snaps, I do not know who has passwords to that to edit the description, but yes, ideally, if we decide that we all want to soft archive that and send this message to users that we do not recommend that unless you really, really know what you are doing and like you are confident that your workstation is secure, or I don't know, using that without internet, whatever. There is for everyone, this is a different threshold. Then it would make sense to include a description, a short note in this stores where the application is actually published to, in addition to README. But yeah, whether we just add a note to README or we actually archive the project on GitHub, majority of the users would not get the application through GitHub. They would probably install that in their operating system.
And I see there's conversation continuing actually on the vein of Nick's proposal, which William summarizes as use the app to configure run the server and then pop up your own desktop browser to actually interact with Jupyter. That sounds like a big undertaking, Nick.
Good Lord. Speaking of browsers, mine is going bonkers. But I can talk. I just might not be able to mute myself. So you're stuck with me. Yeah. So yes, it would be an undertaking. As I said, someone had demonstrated doing this at least once, and it followed basically the same pattern because, you can't cargo install Jupyter, right? You can't, you can't go get that thing, and then you wouldn't be able to install. Even if you could cargo install Jupyter, you wouldn't be able to cargo install some other thing, right? So there's limits to what it can do. So it's got a sidecar ability to run a Conda installer that would give you your runtime Jupyter environment. So yeah, I mean, like I have something that almost works, but anything that we did that didn't improve our ability to test and verify the functionality of it wouldn't really move the bar much, right? If it relies on manual testing on exotic platforms, whatever, that's unfair. They're going to EOL, OS X, whatever, Intel in a bit. But yeah, I mean, like shipping software for non-actual developers of the software that are developing on it brings with it a whole host of concerns.
You have a link to your almost works solution?
I don't. I have not pushed it. I have been trying to get it, trying to get funding for that in my in-house stuff, and it doesn't always work at that. Because that's a huge value added. Yeah, that's the one. It's a ways back, right? It's yep. And there's other ones. There's a whole bunch of ones. Basically you got to get serious about a single way to manage packages that includes managing the Jupyter packages, stand outside of that, and be able to launch, relaunch, configure processes. So for example, Tari and a couple other things, they offer, even TK, if you work really hard at it, you can put a little, if you grab like Docker Desktop or something like that, they put something up in the system tray. And you can put a menu on that, and the menu can have, checkboxes and things like that. So, you start Jupyter Desktop. Okay, it's just a menu tray icon. You click that. If you need to, you open the built-in browser, but for the most part, you'd open their preferred browser. But that gets around. I have many of them. I have environments, all those things that you got to know before you actually start your Jupyter server or Jupyverse or all that stuff. Like architecturally, how would we create something that gives desktop users, I click a button and I'm doing Jupyter stuff, or I double click a file and I'm doing the Jupyter stuff that I want to be doing, not whatever came out of the can originally. Yeah, I mean, the other way that I don't think nobody wants is Qt. It's just a licensing nightmare to do that correctly and dot all the I's and everything like that. And they just ship a Chromium fork, so you're not really, you're not out the game that much. And we've done that too. We did that for NVConvert, right? Like, we have a Qt-based solution. You just don't get to use it. It runs headless to take pictures. Avoiding some issues, but still having many of the issues that we've discussed. So yeah, it's basically how, given free CI, can you build something that a user can install by downloading it and running it? And this is, ignoring Flatpak stores, ignoring Windows stores, ignoring Microsoft stores, ignoring Apple stores, all those things. Like, can you get to an executable before you start worrying about the signing stuff? But then you get to what, the hard work that was done that took many people a long time to get signing keys for all the stuff on Jupyter Desktop through NumFocus. I guess they still own that. That might be part of the problem too. I don't even know if we can ship one. So, yeah. But in the way that I'm interested in it, like I'm saying, it's not about shipping Jupyter Desktop shipping. I want to ship an application where I don't rewrite file management. I don't rewrite interactive compute. I don't rewrite package management. I just ship, like, all the way down to one notebook. I want to ship one notebook. I want an installer. I want a 3 GB installer that runs one notebook. Because if you get there, that's driving the complexity of turning something that you build in Jupyter into something that you can distribute for non-developers. And that's enormous. I mean, the very smallest side of it, right, would be it just ships JupyterLite, right? Like, you could end up with something that all it did was start the lightest weight Rust, I don't know, general purpose web server that hosts JupyterLite. That's it. End of story. Like, and everything else is taken care of. I'm not saying that's a great idea, but having that as a possibility is more interesting to me than, here is this set of packages that we say that you should use. And other than if that becomes something that's, like, officially supported, right? Like, this is the way that we recommend it. Right now, still on the documentation, it says, go get Anaconda and use Jupyter. Like, that appears in several places on the Jupyter documentation. And that is already setting you up for, terms of service violations and stuff like that. So, yeah, this again gets back to, what is Jupyter? And for a certain audience, that answer needs to be something that I download, install through normal means, or as an administrator, I remotely install on a bunch of computers that I manage that they can run. So, for example, Tori lets you build MSIs. Those are the preferred remote installation mechanism for managed Windows computers. So if you're on the Azure bus or whatever, like, you'd be able to do that. If you log into your computer, then, people can put stuff on it. And then, yeah, Flatpak, I don't know. Yeah, exactly, man. I don't know how to go down that road. I don't know if there's value necessarily in having to. We have gotten away thus far without picking one of these specific third-party managed app stores that didn't get grandfathered in by being PyPy or being NPM or being Docker Hub. Docker Hub's already kind of a thing, right? If you tell people, yeah, just go to Docker Hub and grab it from Docker Stacks, well, that'll work until it doesn't. If you're sending it to a 1,000 node compute cluster or something like that, like, yeah, I'm just talking now. me see if I can mute myself.
Great, Nick. Thank you so much
I
for
will just add one.
inputting. Yeah.
I will add one point, data point. I was curious what Zasper uses. It looks like Zasper uses Electron too. So yeah, there isn't that much of a choice. It's either Tori or Electron nowadays. Ignoring some 2 or 3 letter frameworks that would entail even more work and would basically expose the same browser.
Yeah.
So yeah, I am not sure what's the future here, but I just want to communicate that to users and at the same time, yeah, make sure that we can continue developing if there is any free bandwidth available. Okay, so what I plan to do is to open a pull request and suggest addition to the README. I will not merge that pull request until I get review from Mehmet, who's been a majority driving force behind JupyterLab Desktop for quite some time. And I think this should be kind of enough if there are no alternative suggestions for the short term of how we should handle it. Nick, I think I interrupted you. I just want to make sure.
No, not really. I mean, the ideal thing that would actually make it to users would be, unfortunately, to ship a version. Because then it would get the update thingamajigger. It would pop the notification. There is an update. Would you like the update? You grab the update. I don't know if I think there's native notifications that you could use that are not, like if you had turned off all notifications in JupyterLab, I think you could still pop one and say, hey y'all, this has been fun, but like this is it. We don't have anybody go to this link if your organization depends on this and you've got a way that you can put developers on this. We'd love to have you. But that requires fixing the problem. So then we would have fixed the problem. It's what is that, an aleatory uncertainty? I don't know, whatever. Yeah.
We can release a new version without updating to the stack. We can do that. And I think macOS users would get this notification that you're speaking of. Windows and Linux users wouldn't, because it's just not configured. But yeah, that's something that we could consider. Maybe that's manageable. It's like maybe we don't need to do that just yet. Maybe a note in the README is okay for this month, and in September, if there is still no development and we feel even more insecure about the security posture of the project, then maybe we push a version which does exactly that. Just says, hey, this is not very secure. Consider contributing or consider switching to a different project.
Right. PR is welcome. Yeah. Ain't that the way? Yeah.
Okay. To move forward, I also have a small point listing 3 pull requests that I opened, which need review. Just highlighting them. I think we are already half past, so I will not speak about any of those in more detail. I already mentioned the interrupt messages PR in a previous call if someone is interested. There are some details in the notes. And that's it from me. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. So next up, Jason.
Yeah, I was so just a public service announcement. JupyterCon CFP deadline is, I believe, this Sunday, July 20th. And I am curious if there's people here submitting. Thanks, Ian. is submitting talks or tutorials on JupyterLab or Jupyter Notebook, the Jupyter Frontends specifically. Ian is.
Yeah, hi. Yeah, if I submitted a proposal for a subshells talk this morning.
Cool. Oh, that's fantastic. Phenomenal.
So it's good the deadline was extended because I wasn't going to on Sunday, but I have today.
Okay. I mean, take this also as a note of encouragement to people to consider submitting for the JupyterCon either talks or tutorials, etc.
The deadline extension was much appreciated.
Oh, good. Good. Yeah, I think it partly was driven by people at SciPy saying, "Oh no, we we don't have time to do SciPy and JupyterCon." So good. I'm glad to hear that even people that weren't at SciPy are like, "Oof, this was really great."
Yeah, we could have gotten it in on time, but having the extra couple of days to breathe definitely made life easier.
Great, fantastic. And talking about proposals, this is actually hot off the presses. We haven't announced it in the blog yet. I expect we'll do so probably tomorrow. But we've opened up a call for Jupyter workshops. This is a reimagination of the Jupyter Workshop program that's been successful over the last few years. Now hosted at the Linux Foundation. So LF events team is helping us put these on now. I've put a link in the agenda, and I'll put it in the chat for to make sure everybody can follow along here. The TLDR is the deadline is August 10th for submitting proposals. The goal is to have 3 workshops before the end of the year, and this time before, Jupyter workshops have been a very broad, general thing. Like anybody in the world can submit. You know, the goals were sort of very vague, strategic, impactful work or growing community. But how you did that was deliberately left unspecified. So we ended up with a huge variety of different kinds of workshops. This time we're scoping it, you know, to start off at the LF. We're going to and with only 3 workshops, we're going to scope it a little bit more closely to the contributor community. So in particular, we are asking that, we are insisting, requiring that one of the organizers be a member of the Union of Councils. And that's a way to help make sure that we're aligning with the needs of the community. We appreciate any feedback, especially, or not especially, but including, Mike, thank you for UI feedback. I will read and take that feedback back to the people maintaining the website. I appreciate that. But think of this as impactful strategic work in Jupyter tied to contributors. So there might be a workshop that is, we want to get the front ends team together with the accessibility team, and here's 1 or 2 items that, you know, big impactful strategic items that we want to work on. I mean, there's a lot of examples, I think, in the previous Jupyter workshops around impactful strategic work with the contributors. So the deadline is August 10th. Happy to answer any questions about that. And we look forward to seeing proposals. Maybe I'll just give it. Okay, so it's the same parameters as previous workshops, where the budget can cover things like travel, meals, venue, etc. The budget goes up to, you can request up to $20K, $20,000, and we expect it to be workshops to be generally 12 to 24 participants over a few days of in-person meeting, and working on strategic, impactful work inside the Jupyter community with the Jupyter contributors. Yes, questions, Mike?
I am not sure if the deadline might feel a little tight.
Okay.
For a proposal. It's August 10th. it's less than a month in total, but I understand that for many folks this just happens to be when they go on holiday, on vacation. I guess it's fine if you don't get enough submissions, you can extend the deadline and that will still work. Just wanted to highlight this. And also for the JupyterCon, since that already had the deadline extended, I guess there will be no other extension. There is, I added a link in the notes where Jeremy was asking whether anyone would like to submit something from the frontends team. I think it would be super cool if there was a tutorial or just a very short presentation about like changes that we made in JupyterLab and in Notebook, and how it aligns with maybe other frontends as well. But in general, giving a short update would be great. I think I will personally not travel to the US for this JupyterCon, but just highlighting that there is a discussion on the team campus. If anyone is interested, I'm happy to help with like putting together slides or something.
I think I think that it would be nice at last JupyterCon we did have the talk about JupyterLab 4 and Notebook 7. I think it was Jeremy, Eric, and I, and that would something like an update like Meg mentions would be really nice. I'm also working on a proposal. It's for Jupyter extensions, for JupyterLab extensions. It's kind of taking a few of my learnings from working on some of the extensions that like Gator and Jupyter Spec, and it's more geared to maybe like someone familiar with JupyterLab and just starting off with extensions, and I really wanted to highlight some of the resources that are already available for us to use. So I'll be submitting that soon. Yeah. And yeah, I guess maybe I could drop a comment in the team compass issue that Mike mentioned, and I'd be happy to maybe work with some other people to give updates for the front end team.
In fact, last time I think we discussed JupyterCon may be a great target for JupyterLab 4.5. So announcing JupyterLab 4.5 and some of the brand new updates, I think would make for a great talk, and an overview of cool new things over the last year.
Yeah, I guess maybe yeah, it would be nice to coordinate. The deadline is coming up kind of soon, so I guess I do have a brief question. I could put something together and kind of sign up, and presumably we can update like anybody else who might join us in speaking or things like that.
Yes, basically, can we submit a placeholder proposal with, like, we will talk about JupyterLab release or JupyterLab and Notebook, and at least Rosia will be there. Probably other people will be able to join and contribute, but we don't have the exact contents yet.
I think it makes a lot of sense. Rosie, do you want to post a comment on that issue and call for people that might be interested in helping to put together a talk?
Yeah, that sounds great. I'll post a comment there, and then I guess I will also share maybe that I could help with submitting that draft sort of placeholder proposal, and then we can go from there and plan on the issue. Thank you.
Awesome. And a related question I had, yes, thank you so much. If JupyterLab 4.5 like is coming out in a few months, I'm curious what people's thoughts are. This is sort of a milestone question, but just very restricted from, I think last time we said there's like dozens and dozens of issues in the 4.5 milestone. What's one feature in JupyterLab 4.5 that you would really like to see to consider 4.5, a great success? Presumably, hopefully one that you're willing to help work on.
I mean, we got to finish LSP at some point. We gotta start doing that. I don't, we're in a kind of a hard place right now where it's hard to do any kind of innovation on the third party one, or sorry, it's first party. It's an official sub project, but it would be very hard to add multiple servers per. It'd be hard to add UI for multiple language servers per document or fragment of document, which kind of goes even beyond what the VS Code stuff can do. So really, and it would give us a way back to, more or less arbitrary syntax highlighting and all that kind of stuff. But I can't promise being able to do the coordination between those two repos. I can barely handle the Mermaid stuff, right? I mean, we can put some tree maps in Mermaid. They just came out. They look cool. I haven't done that PR yet, but that'd be solid. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it has been floated that like rock solid virtual rendering, windowed rendering would be the thing. But again, to Mike's point, like that's not a feature. It should have already been doing that.
I think at this point that would be considered a feature. Rock solid virtual rendering feature.
Yeah, I mean, rock solid virtual rendering and collaboration would be so money, but here we are.
Yeah, I was trying to formulate that. I was typing in the notes, and I just said rock solid window rendering. I just thought that, yeah, that's exactly the thing. And next to that is table of contents, which is actually something that is already merged just today, thanks to a contribution from I don't want to mispronounce the name. I should have prepared, but I would say Vishnu, but yeah, that's probably mispronouncing. Who contributed this amazing pull request that fixed many of the struggles that we had with the table of contents rendering, which were unfortunately side effects of the thing that came, like the refactor that was associated with Windows Notebooks implementation. So finally, we are at least back to that working. For Windows rendering, I do not know if we will. I have some more time scheduled this week to work on some scrolling related issues, and I could kind of see that we can iron out all the edge cases by the end of 4.5 and probably backport many of these. But it's kind of like a moving target. You fix one bug and another bug emerges. So that's also why I kind of opened this PR to see how the CI would react if we just switch to the defer mode for 4.5, and that remains like a fallback strategy. Basically, I don't think we should release a new version of JupyterLab, new minor version, where there are issues with notebook rendering itself and scrolling.
Awesome. Anybody else? Or maybe another way to think about this is Rosio and et al. Are giving this talk at JupyterCon on JupyterLab 4.5. What are their headline slides of like things that we want to communicate that are awesome about JupyterLab 4.5?
I think that there is already, like, Jeremy merged a pull request with support for rendering of audio and video files. Ian has this amazing pull request which implements a search in the terminal. Like, these are small improvements which are additions, and we wouldn't release them in a backport. But I don't think there will be, potentially there won't be a single headline feature. There will be just many very nice improvements.
What was that one about terminals? I'm trying to capture it in the notes. Thanks.
It's implementing search in the lab terminal.
Oh, yes, I saw this. That's fantastic.
Which I want for the light terminal. So the sense is to put it in for the lab terminal too. And it's been a good way to find out a bit more about how lab works, because I'd like to contribute more, but I need an excuse to justify it. So it's good.
On the stuff that you mentioned, subshell support, what's the current status of subshell support in the front end? I know we have code merged.
Yes. So it fully supports everything you might ever want to do, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
Excellent. So I think we should highlight it, even if it's not 4.5. Yeah, but it was a major thing in 4.4. And it.
But bear in mind, we're still a few weeks away from an actual release of IPyKernel that includes subshells. So although it's there, basically only I can use it at the moment.
Yeah. Well, but by JupyterCon, it'll be essentially a new end-to-end feature that we can announce.
Sure, and I will be doing obviously live demos of Lab and IPyKernel and IPyWidget subshells as part of the talk.
Yeah. We can feed into each other's talk. If our talk is first, we'll be like, go see Ian's talk if you want a lot more in-depth thing. All right. Thank you. I think this helps me get a mind wrapped around, like, what do we want in 4.5?
Thank you for the discussion. Yes. Are there any more items that people wants to discuss or add to agenda? I think we are done with the items in agenda. Any general updates? We are almost at time. So is there anything anyone wants to discuss off record? Jason, you're on mute.
I was going to say, I'll stop the recording. Thanks, Internet.